You've been told your whole life that you're here to learn, to gather knowledge, adopt beliefs, collect experiences like stones in a jar, and hope that one day, finally, you'll understand who you really are. But what if I told you that the truth isn't something you need to learn at all? What if the greatest secret is that you already know, and the only thing left to do is remember? Not remember like a memory stored in your brain, not like a date or a name or a face from childhood. No, this remembrance is deeper. It's vibrational. It's ancient. It's the quiet reawakening of a truth that was never lost, only buried beneath noise, beneath labels, beneath a world that convinced you to forget. You weren't meant to fit into this world, you were meant to awaken within it, because what you are, what you've always been, is not a role or a story. You are not your name, you are not your wounds, you are not even your thoughts. You are the awareness that came long before any of those things were given to you. Somewhere deep inside, you know this already. You've felt it, haven't you? In the stillness between your thoughts. In that moment right before you fall asleep, when the world fades and something eternal whispers through the silence. It's always been there, that quiet knowing, the sensation that you are more than this flesh, more than your title, more than the mask you wear when the world is watching. But there's a reason you've forgotten, a reason most people live entire lifetimes without ever hearing that inner voice again. You live in a world built on forgetting, a world that thrives on distraction, performance, and conformity. From the moment you opened your eyes as a newborn, you were taught what to believe, what to want, what to fear. You were given a name, a nationality, a religion, a history, and none of it was you. It was the shell, the costume, the play. And the real you? It was buried under layers of programming so sophisticated, you began to believe that becoming was the path. That one day, if you read enough, healed enough, achieved enough, then you'd feel whole. But you've never needed to become anything. You've only ever needed to remember. Because the truth is, you came here with everything. You are not an empty cup waiting to be filled. You are an overflowing ocean that's forgotten its own depth. And buried within you, deeper than the bones, deeper than the blood, is the vibration of your original self, the one untouched by trauma, untouched by fear, untouched by time. They don't want you to remember that version of yourself, not because it's dangerous to you, but because it's dangerous to the system. Because when a soul remembers, it becomes sovereign. When a soul remembers, it no longer obeys blindly. It no longer consumes meaninglessly. It no longer needs validation to know its worth. This remembrance, this inner reawakening is what ancient traditions spoke of in hushed tones. The Egyptians knew it. The Greeks called it anamnesis, the soul's memory. The Indian sages described it through the Upanishads, whispering that the Atman, the self, is not separate from Brahman, the source. It's not about learning new beliefs. It's about peeling away everything that isn't you. Every false identity, every inherited fear, every label you've worn like armor, until all that's left is the still, shining awareness that was always there, watching, waiting, beckoning you home. And here's where the mystery deepens. Hidden within these traditions was a method, a practice so sacred it was guarded, concealed, even suppressed, not because it caused harm, but because it awakened freedom. A technique that allows you to tune back into your soul's original frequency, a way to bypass the noise, bypass the ego, and reconnect to your eternal essence. They called it forbidden not because it was dark, but because it was illuminating. Imagine for a moment that your soul has a vibration, a tone, a frequency that sings in perfect harmony with the entire universe. At some point, you stopped hearing it. The volume of the world became too loud, but it never stopped playing. And now, the invitation is this: to remember the song. This isn't about mystical powers or spiritual status. It's about clarity, alignment, awakening. Because when you tune back in, life begins to mirror your truth. Synchronicities increase. Peace becomes your default state. You stop chasing and start radiating, not because you're perfect, but because you're finally present. You're no longer acting. You're no longer reacting. You are remembering. But let me be clear, this path of remembrance, it is not passive, it is not easy, and it is not for the faint of heart. It requires you to look directly into the illusions you've been living, to question what you've always accepted, to sit with silence until it reveals the truth beneath your noise. This isn't about detachment or escaping the world. It's about diving so fully into presence that the world begins to reveal its true nature. You begin to see with the eyes of the soul. You begin to hear through vibration, feel through frequency, know without proof. And that's the beginning of the return. Not a return to a place, but to a state of being, a homecoming within. The forbidden technique is not just one action, it is a sequence, a sacred unfolding. First you must deprogram the false self, then you awaken the inner sense, and finally you resonate with your soul's original frequency, your true name. This name isn't a word, it's a vibration, a silent signature only your soul knows. And when you remember it, everything changes. You begin to feel it in the quiet moments, in the way a breeze brushes against your skin, in the space between the inhale and exhale. It doesn't shout, it resonates. And once you feel that resonance, you'll never forget again. Because remembering who you are is not a one-time event, it's a sacred practice, a devotion, a daily return. And it begins now. If you've ever looked into the mirror and felt like a stranger was staring back at you, it wasn't because you're broken, it's because you're layered, covered, wrapped in 100 different masks that you didn't choose, and beneath them is the real you. Still breathing, still pulsing, still waiting to be remembered. This isn't about fixing yourself. You are not some fractured puzzle needing to be solved. You are a soul that chose to fall asleep for a while, and now you're ready to wake up. You don't need to travel across the world to find a guru. You don't need another book, another ceremony, or another title. What you need is stillness. What you need is silence, because within that silence something ancient begins to stir. Spiritual awakening isn't about adding more, it's about subtracting. It's the moment you stop trying to become and instead begin to be. When you stop asking the world to tell you who you are and instead ask the question that changes everything. Who am I beneath the noise? Not who you are to your job, not who you are to your family, not even who you are to your thoughts. Who are you beneath all of it? You might not have the words yet, but something in you already knows the answer. It's the same part of you that felt strange pretending to be someone else, the part that knows truth by how it feels, not by how it's explained, the part that aches for something it can't describe, yet has always longed for, like a home it remembers but hasn't seen in lifetime. This is the awakening, not the learning of something new, but the remembering of something so old, so sacred, so true, that it cannot be taught. It can only be recalled. And here's what they'll never tell you. You don't awaken by reaching upward. You awaken by sinking inward. The soul doesn't shout. It whispers. It sings in frequencies, in feelings, in knowing. And while the world shouts at you to perform, to prove, to produce, your soul only asks one thing. Remember me. Every spiritual teaching that's ever mattered comes down to this. Whether it's the lotus rising from the mud, the phoenix reborn from flame, or the divine child waking up in the cradle of the stars, it all points to a return. Not a becoming, a return. And if you listen closely, you can feel it. A sacred heartbeat underneath the chaos, a stillness beneath the noise, a vibration humming inside your chest that doesn't belong to the body but to something far older. You are not here to seek truth like it lives outside of you. You are truth, learning how to recognize itself again. You are not made to fit into a box of identity. You were made to explode into remembrance. There is no book, no religion, no ideology that can hand you your soul, but they can point, they can mirror, they can stir the echo that causes you to turn inward and whisper, "I know this, I've always known this." There's a reason why ancient mystics wrapped their teachings in riddles, in symbols, in silence. Because remembrance cannot be forced. It unfolds, like the lotus petal, like the morning sun, like a dream you're slowly waking up inside of. And this dream, this illusion you've been living in, it's not your fault. You were taught to forget. You were conditioned to survive, not to remember. But now the remembering begins, not with answers, but with awareness. Not with seeking, but with surrender. Not with effort, but with presence. You are not the thoughts racing through your mind. You are the one watching them. You are not the emotions passing through your chest. You are the space in which they arise. You are not your pain. You are the one who can witness it without becoming it. This is the beginning. Right now, your soul is listening. Right now, something ancient in you is stirring, a deeper intelligence, a wisdom that doesn't live in language, a recognition without logic, the first spark of remembrance. Because the real you, the eternal you, is not lost. It's hidden, not by cruelty but by design, hidden so that the act of finding it would become the greatest initiation of all. That's what the ancients knew. That's what the mystery schools encoded. That's what the poets tried to sing about but couldn't finish the verse. And it's what you've been sensing your whole life, even if you couldn't name it. The yearning you felt, the ache for more, is not a flaw, it's the compass of the soul. It's the inner call saying, you are not what the world told you. You are so much more. They called it the Great Remembering, a moment when the soul peeks through the veil and realizes that it was never asleep, only dreaming. This remembering is not a thought. It's a vibration, and once you touch it, even for a second, you'll know. You'll know because the chase ends, the proving stops, the fear melts, and something ancient inside of you finally exhales. So right now I invite you to pause, to feel the breath moving through you, not just as air, but as spirit, as energy, as memory. Inhale and feel yourself return. Exhale and feel the illusion fall away. You are not becoming spiritual. You are spirit, remembering itself through a temporary human experience. You are not lost. You are layered, and each layer you remove, each mask you release reveals the original frequency you've always carried. You don't need to change who you are, you only need to remember who you've always been. And once you do, once you truly remember, it changes everything. Because once a soul remembers its origin, it never bows to illusion again. From the moment you took your first breath in this world, something began to slip away. A knowing, a purity, a sacred clarity that once whispered through your being like wind through the trees. You didn't lose it, not entirely, but it was covered, wrapped in layers of identity, rules, and expectations that were never truly yours. You were born knowing, not thinking, knowing. You knew connection before you knew language. You knew energy before you knew explanation. You knew love, not as something you earned, but as something you were. And then they started teaching you. They taught you how to behave, how to sit still, how to raise your hand, follow the lines, color inside the box. They taught you your name, your gender, your nationality, your role. And none of these things were bad, but none of them were you. Each label became another thread in a costume, and before long you forgot it was a costume at all. You believed the character so deeply, so obediently, that you started defending it. You started fearing anything that didn't fit it. And that is the beginning of soul amnesia. You weren't taught who you are, you were taught who to be. taught how to perform a version of yourself acceptable to a system that rewards compliance and punishes truth. But the truth doesn't disappear just because it's buried. It waits, beneath the noise, beneath the roles, beneath the praise and the punishment. It waits in silence, like a flame beneath ashes. And when the time is right, it stirs. You've felt it. In those quiet moments when the world is still and something deeper calls to you, not with words, but with a question. Is this who I really am? The modern world does not reward remembrance. It rewards forgetfulness. It rewards you for staying busy, staying distracted, staying numb. They give you scrolls to replace stillness, opinions to replace truth, entertainment to replace awe. You were programmed to look outward for everything you once carried inward, and so began the forgetting, not because you were weak, but because you were young, and the world is loud, so loud that you forgot the sound of your own soul's voice. And yet you never fully forgot. Even in your darkest moments, there's been a flicker, a mirror that appears when you least expect it, a strange déjà vu, a quiet whisper in the shower, a line from a poem that makes you cry without knowing why, a dream that feels more real than anything you've ever lived. That's not fantasy, that's soul memory, breaking through the illusion of the learned self. Because this self, this version of you that gets stressed, anxious, angry, afraid, it's not false, but it's not final. It's a temporary construct, a container. It was built by the world around you, and for many it becomes a prison. But there's a way out. Not by fighting it, not by running from it, but by seeing through it. The mirror doesn't lie, it just reflects. And if you've ever stood in front of a mirror and felt disconnected from what you saw, it's not because you're broken, it's because you're looking at the surface of something infinite. You don't need to become more, you need to look deeper, because what you seek has been seeking you, and the path back to yourself is inward. Neville Goddard once said, "To remember is to awaken," and he was right, because remembering isn't just a thought, it's an energetic shift. It's a vibration that rises from the silence and pierces through the conditioning. When you remember who you truly are, the illusion begins to collapse. Not all at once, but like a dream, dissolving in the morning light. And suddenly the question is no longer, what should I do? It becomes, what is true for me? That question changes everything. Because truth doesn't scream, it doesn't argue, it doesn't prove itself, it simply resonates. It's the feeling of alignment, of coherence, of a deep inner yes that needs no justification. But in the learned self, you were taught to ignore that. You were taught to prioritize approval over intuition, performance over presence, achievement over alignment. You were taught to memorize other people's truths instead of listening to your own. And so your soul waited, silently, patiently until now, because you wouldn't be hearing these words unless something in you was ready to return. You wouldn't be listening unless something in you had already started remembering. And here's the most powerful part. Once you begin, you can't go back. Once the soul is stirred, the illusion begins to crack. The distractions don't numb like they used to. The mask doesn't fit like it once did. The life you built around forgetting no longer satisfies, because something deeper has awakened, and that something is you. Not the you were taught to be, the you that has always been. You may not be able to explain it to anyone. You may feel strange, alone, even afraid at times. But you are not alone. You are not lost. You are remembering. The world will try to pull you back. It will say, "Come, be who you were." But who you were was just a fragment, a role, a necessary chapter. And now you're writing something new. You're stepping beyond identity, beyond conditioning, beyond performance. You are reuniting with the eternal presence that has always been, watching, waiting, loving, guiding, the part of you that never needed to be earned, only revealed. And once it's revealed, You'll see it everywhere. In the way the trees sway, in the silence between sounds, in the eyes of strangers, in your own breath, in the mirror, finally reflecting back, not the character you were taught to be, but the being you've always been, not separate, not lacking, not broken, just remembering. There is a reason you feel like you've lived this before. A reason certain words make your chest tighten, certain symbols make your skin hum, and certain dreams linger long after you've opened your eyes. Because long before this life, before this body, before this moment, you've done this. You've remembered before. This journey isn't new, it's ancient, woven into your soul's memory, passed down through lifetimes like an echo bouncing through the halls of eternity. You are not the first to forget, and you are not the first to return. There is a technique, a sacred process whispered through time, not created but revealed, not invented but remembered. The elders called it many names, but today we call it simply the forbidden technique, not because it is dark, but because it is liberating, because it frees you from the illusion, and anything that frees you threatens control. This technique doesn't give you power, it shows you that you already are power. It realigns you with the vibration of your soul's original state, before the world began to name you, claim you, define you. It's been kept hidden, not in vaults, but in symbols, in stories, in rituals so misunderstood they were dismissed as myth or magic. But you've felt them before, haven't you? A pull toward the mysteries, toward Egypt, India, Greece, not by chance, but because your soul remembers the wisdom carved into those civilizations. Their secrets were not lost. They were encoded, waiting for your vibration to rise high enough to hear them again. Let's begin in Egypt. The Egyptians spoke of the Ka and the Ba, two aspects of the soul. The Ka, your life force, the Ba, your eternal essence. The Ka lives in the breath, the heartbeat, the moment-to-moment aliveness. The Ba is the part of you that travels beyond time, that dreams, that remembers. They believed that true immortality wasn't about the body surviving, it was about the merging of Ka and Ba. But when it's aligned, it remembers its divine shape, its true resonance. This was the purpose of the pyramids, not just tombs, but temples of alignment, vibration chambers designed to recalibrate the soul. Hieroglyphs weren't decorations, they were symbols of consciousness, keys, and when read with the heart, not the intellect, they unlock memory. You don't have to climb a pyramid to feel this. All you need is stillness, breath, and intention. The same vibrational field runs through your body. You are the temple now. India knew this too. In the Upanishads, the sages spoke of Atman, the inner self. Not the ego, not the mind, but the true self. And they declared something radical. Atman is Brahman, the soul is the source, not separate, not striving, already one. This wasn't a metaphor. It was a vibration. When you remember the Atman within you, remember that you are the divine, wearing a body for a while, dreaming a life. But the dream doesn't define the dreamer. This remembrance didn't require belief, it required silence. The technique was passed through mantra, breath, inner vision, not taught with words but transferred through energy, from teacher to student, soul to soul. The sacred syllable AOM wasn't just sound. It was the frequency of the soul awakening, the vibration that aligns the personal with the cosmic. And when chanted with presence, it doesn't just echo through your mouth, it echoes through your being, resonating with something ancient inside you that says, yes, I remember. And even in the West, in the cradle of philosophy, the knowing remained. Plato wrote of anamnesis, the soul's remembrance. He believed that learning was not acquiring something new, but recalling what the soul already knew. That truth was not injected into the mind, but uncovered from within. In his vision, the soul comes into this life forgetting its divine nature, and through reflection, contemplation, and love, it begins to remember. This was more than philosophy. It was a map. He described the soul as having once seen the forms, the pure, eternal truths, before descending into a body, and through beauty, through wonder, through deep inquiry, those memories are reawakened. He wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was describing what you are now living. Right now your soul is brushing up against these echoes, remembering the temples, the chants, the symbols. You may not remember the details, but your cells do. Your energy does. The vibrations of these teachings live in your field like ancient songs, waiting for you to start humming again. So what is this forbidden technique? It's not one ritual. It's not one chant. It's a sequence. The soul technology, pass-through vibration. It begins with deprogramming, removing the false layers. Then comes activation, awakening your inner sense, the antenna of the soul. And finally, resonance, returning to your true frequency, your true name, not the name on your birth certificate, the name only your soul recognizes, the vibration that aligns you with the all. That's why this is forbidden, because a soul that knows its name cannot be owned. And here's the secret. You already know this name, you just haven't said it in a very long time, but every time you feel peace for no reason, every time you get chills without knowing why, every time you hear truth and feel your whole body say yes, that's your name vibrating. You are not broken, you are not lost, you are a tuning fork waiting to be struck by memory, and now the sound is returning. You don't need to master ancient texts. You don't need to speak Sanskrit or read hieroglyphs. You just need to feel. Because all of these traditions, all these cultures, separated by time and distance, they were all saying the same thing in different languages. You are not here to learn, you are here to remember. Before you can remember who you are, you must first unlearn who you were taught to be. Because the soul cannot rise while it's buried under masks. And the truth cannot speak while your mind is echoing someone else's voice. The false self is clever. It doesn't show up in horns and chains. It shows up in the mirror, in your achievements, in your trauma, in the stories you cling to even when they hurt. It whispers, "This is who I am," while something deeper aches quietly beneath it. But let's tell the truth now. You are not your name. That was given to you. You are not your job. That is a role you play. You are not your pain. That is a chapter, not the book. You are not even your personality. That is a mask built for survival in a world that forgot how to see you clearly. These are the layers, the armor, the illusions. And you've worn them for so long you've begun to believe they are you. But they're not. They're costumes, crafted by fear, sewn together by repetition, maintained by a society that feeds on conformity and punishes authenticity. You've played the part, you've followed the script, but somewhere along the way, the real you, the radiant, untamed, eternal you, grew tired of pretending. That exhaustion you feel, it's not weakness. It's the soul pushing through the cracks of your persona. It's your truth trying to breathe under the weight of your performance. And now, you're ready to burn it all down. Not in anger, but in sacred liberation. The flame is the symbol, not of destruction, but of transformation. Fire doesn't judge what it consumes. It simply reveals what remains once everything false has turned to ash. So ask yourself now, what needs to burn? The ego that says you must earn love, the title that says you are only as worthy as your productivity, the trauma that says your scars are your identity. Place them into the fire, one by one, not physically, but energetically. See them for what they are, stories, not truth. You don't need to fight the false self, you only need to stop feeding it. Because the false self lives on attention, it thrives in noise, but it withers in silence. So sit with yourself. No phone, no music, no mask. Let the silence stretch longer than your discomfort. Let your thoughts run wild without chasing them. Let your identity scream without responding. And then, listen. Beneath the noise, something eternal begins to speak. It speaks in breath. It speaks in stillness. It speaks without words, but with undeniable knowing. This is the first step of the forbidden technique, not learning more, but becoming less. Or rather, unbecoming, layer by layer, illusion by illusion, until all that's left is you. Not the you perform for others, not the you that conforms to survive, but the original vibration, the soul frequency that cannot be taught, only remembered. Let me offer you a practice. Take a piece of paper. At the top, write the phrase, "This is not who I am." Then beneath it, write down every label, every identity, every role you've clung to. The achiever, the victim, the helper, the outsider, the perfectionist, the failure, the savior, the wounded one. Write them all. And when you're done, burn the paper. Watch the smoke rise as your false self begins to dissolve. This isn't a performance, it's a ritual, a sacred act of returning. Each label that turns to ash frees you, because who you are cannot be named. Who you are just is. Still, silent, whole. Shadow work is part of this process, not to shame your darkness, but to integrate it. You cannot release what you do not acknowledge. So turn inward, look into your own eyes, not for flaws, but for fragments. What part of you have you rejected? What emotion have you buried? What truth have you silenced? Bring them to the light, gently, without judgment. They are not enemies, they are exiled parts of you, waiting to be seen. The false self is not evil, it was born to protect you, it kept you safe in a world that didn't see your light. But now, you no longer need protection. You need freedom. And freedom requires truth. So sit in the fire, let the masks melt, let the silence stretch, let your identity unravel like threads falling from your body. Because when there is nothing left to defend, there is finally space to remember. The world will tempt you to rebuild the mask, to pick up the labels, to clothe yourself in roles again. But you'll know better now, you'll feel the weight return, the dissonance, the dull ache that says, this isn't it. Because once you've touched your essence, nothing false feels like home anymore. And the more you return to stillness, the more the false self dissolves. No longer necessary, no longer in control. Just a chapter you've read too many times. Now it's time to write something new. Not with effort, but with surrender. Not with fear, but with clarity. You're not becoming someone better. You're unbecoming everything that isn't you. And in that unraveling, you are being remembered. Now that the false layers are falling away, something remarkable begins to happen. A stillness opens in you, wide, quiet, and infinite. And in that stillness you begin to feel what was always there, waiting. This is not imagination. It's not visualization. It's not belief. It's a sense. Just as you see with your eyes, hear with your ears, and taste with your tongue, there exists a deeper organ within you, not made of flesh or bone, but of vibration, a kind of spiritual antenna, dormant in most, sleeping in the conditioned, but always, always present. This is your inner sense, the part of you that doesn't just feel energy, it recognizes it. It knows truth not by logic, but by resonance. You've already used it. In moments when something felt off, but you couldn't explain why. In encounters that stirred your chest with no words exchanged. In dreams that didn't fade like dreams, but lingered like messages. You weren't imagining, you were listening with your soul. And now it's time to consciously activate this inner sense. Not to gain power, but to remember connection. Not to perform spiritually, but to perceive clearly. We begin with breath. Breath is the sacred current that flows between body and spirit. Every inhale is a doorway, every exhale a surrender. In ancient traditions, breath was never just air, it was life force, prana, chi. To awaken your inner sense, begin with intentional breathing. Sit or stand in stillness. Inhale through the nose for 4 seconds. Hold it for 4. Exhale through the mouth for 6. As you breathe, don't just focus on the air. Feel the space it creates within you. Breathe until your thoughts begin to soften. Breathe until your body starts to feel like an instrument, waiting to be tuned. Now bring your attention to sacred symbols. Throughout history, the initiated used objects not as idols, but as tuning forks, gateways, mirrors for inner truths. The lotus reminds you that the soul blooms from the mud, that awakening isn't about avoiding darkness, it's about rising through it. The spiral shows you the path inward, not a straight line, but a curve, a returning again and again to the center. The mirror reveals that what you seek is already here, that the soul does not exist elsewhere, it only needs to be seen clearly. Place these symbols in your space. Gaze at them, not with your eyes, but with your heart. Let them open something ancient in you. Let them speak, not in words, but in vibration. And then begin to listen, not with your ears, but with your being. This is called inner hearing. It's the practice of becoming still enough to perceive what most people miss. You won't hear voices like dialogue. You'll feel frequencies, nudges, subtle pulls toward alignment. The more silent you become, the louder this sense grows. In the temples of old, initiates were taught to listen in this way, not just to the world, but to their own essence. They would sit in chambers carved from stone, no light, no sound, just breath, just being, and they would wait. Not to be told something, but to remember something. They were listening for the soul name. Not a word, not a sound, but a vibration unique to each being. The original frequency of the soul before it took form, the true name. And when they heard it, not with the ears, but with the entire field of their being, they wept. Not out of sadness, but out of recognition. They remembered who they were. You can experience this too. You don't need a temple. You are the temple now. Start with a silent walk. No phone, no music, just the rhythm of your feet on the earth. Feel the space around you. Listen not to the birds, not to the wind, but to the stillness in between. That stillness is not empty. It's alive. It's speaking. Then try candle gazing. Light a single flame. Sit in darkness. Focus your gaze gently on the flickering light. Breathe. Watch until your thoughts dissolve into the dance of the flame. Let it burn away distraction. Let it reveal what's hidden. You'll begin to feel it, a shift, a soft hum behind the silence, a presence that isn't outside of you but deeper within you. That is your soul preparing to speak. Now, begin vibration toning. It's simple. Close your eyes. Inhale slowly, then release your voice, not in words but in tone, a deep hum, an open vowel, a sound that feels right in your chest. Let it flow, unforced. You're not trying to sound good. You're letting your body vibrate. You're tuning the instrument. Feel where the vibration moves. Throat, chest, spine. Let it guide you sometimes. A tone will unlock emotion. Let it. That is the residue of forgetting, being washed away. As you practice these rituals, you'll notice something extraordinary. Synchronicities will increase. Time will slow down. Nature will feel louder. Dreams will carry messages. You'll begin to feel yourself being guided, not from above, but from within. The inner sense is now alive, and the more you listen, the more you'll hear. Not because the voice is new, but because you've finally become quiet enough to notice. You've entered the second phase of the forbidden technique. You've begun tuning to the original frequency. You've remembered that truth is not always something you say. Sometimes it's something you feel in the marrow, in the silence, in the breath. And as this sense strengthens, one day soon, you will feel something stir in your chest. Not a thought, not an idea, but a vibration that says, "This is me." And when that moment comes, the world around you may not change, but you will never be the same. There is a moment, quiet, unmistakable, when your inner sense sharpens into clarity, not like remembering a fact, but like hearing a familiar melody played after centuries of silence. Your body stills, your breath deepens, and without understanding how, you know. You've touched your frequency. This is your soul's true name. Not a name in language, not a sound you can pronounce, it's not a word at all, but a resonance, a tone that belongs to you and only you. A vibrational signature etched into the fabric of your being before time had meaning. Your true name isn't spoken, it's felt. It's a current that moves through your spine when you're in alignment. It's the inner yes when you stop resisting. It's the sensation of home, not as a place, but as a presence. This is the final phase of the forbidden technique. Discovering. Not as in finding something new, but finally tuning in to what has always been playing inside you. Your soul is like a tuning fork. It carries a specific frequency. When you're disconnected from it, life feels off, chaotic, hollow, full of effort. But when you resonate with that frequency, everything shifts. The chaos quiets. The seeking ends. Peace takes root not as a mood but as a state of being. This alignment isn't achieved through striving, it's felt through resonance. And like any instrument, you must be tuned to hear it. That's where chanting begins. Not to summon something outside of you, but to harmonize what's within. Find a sound that resonates in your body, a hum, a tone, an ancient syllable like OM or RH, or one that rises spontaneously when you sit in silence. Let it flow. Let it vibrate through your chest, your spine, your crown. Don't worry about being correct. The soul doesn't measure. It feels. Chant not to perform, but to remember. Each vibration is a key unlocking a door inside your energetic field. Each tone brings your body closer to its native rhythm. You're not just making sound. You're aligning energy. Next, move into light visualization. Sit comfortably. Breathe slowly. Close your eyes. Now imagine a soft, radiant light above your head. Not blinding, gentle, loving. Begin to feel it pour down through your crown like warm, golden water. Let it move through your body slowly, lovingly. Let it wash through your spine, your chest, your hands, your legs, your feet. And then let it pulse. Visualize the light gently pulsing in rhythm with your breath. With each inhale, the light expands. With each exhale, it softens. As the rhythm deepens, a still awareness emerges. That awareness is your soul frequency becoming embodied, not something coming into you, but something finally being felt as you. Now allow your awareness to expand. Imagine your body glowing from the inside out, not with force, but with presence. The light isn't invading you, it's revealing you. You're not visualizing something external, you're remembering what your energy looks like when it's in harmony with your higher self. This is not just meditation, it's realignment, and as you continue to practice, something strange and beautiful begins to happen. Life stops feeling random. Synchronicities increase, not because the universe suddenly started paying attention, but because you did. You begin noticing patterns, repeating numbers, glances from strangers that feel like recognition, songs that play at the perfect moment, the right message arriving just when you need it. These aren't coincidences, they are echoes of your alignment. They are ripples created by your soul frequency brushing against the fabric of the world. And in these moments you begin to trust, not just in something greater, but in yourself. Because you no longer feel like a stranger in your own life. You've stopped chasing. You've started remembering. There is a peace that comes, not the kind you feel after resolving conflict or finishing a task, but a deeper peace, a peace that lives in the marrow, a peace that hums beneath your breath like a sacred undertone. This peace is not the absence of chaos, it's the presence of alignment. You begin to speak differently, not with more words but with more intention. You begin to move differently, not with effort but with grace. You begin to see yourself, not as someone striving for spiritual growth, but as someone returning to the natural rhythm of their own soul. This is who you've always been. Your frequency is not better than anyone else's, but it is yours. And when you embody it fully, the world responds, not because you've become someone new, but because you've become more you, and the more everything else starts falling into place. Not perfectly, but harmoniously. This is the essence of the forbidden technique. You weren't meant to imitate. You weren't meant to blend in. You were meant to resonate. And your soul frequency? It's the key. So ask yourself gently, with full presence, what feels like peace? What activities, people, and places make you feel expansive, light, seen? Those are clues, markers along the path. Your soul frequency reveals itself in your joy, in your stillness, in your sacred yes. No one can tell you your true name. It cannot be taught. It cannot be given. It can only be remembered. And when it is, it won't be loud. It will be soft, familiar, like coming home to yourself after lifetimes of forgetting. You'll feel it in the silence. You'll feel it in the breath. You'll feel it in the space between thoughts. And when you do, you'll know you've returned, not to something new, but to something eternal, to your original vibration, to the soul that never left, only waited to be heard again. Waking up doesn't mean floating above life. It means entering it more fully. To live awake is not to detach, escape, or retreat from the world. It's to move through it with eyes that see differently, a heart that feels deeply, and a presence that doesn't flinch from truth. You didn't remember your soul to leave this life. You remembered it so you could live it, fully, consciously, awake. The world around you may still be sleeping, still performing, still reaching, proving, grasping for meaning, but you. Now you know the secret. You know that peace isn't found in the noise. It's found in the silence beneath it, and that knowing becomes your compass. Living awake isn't about being perfect. It's about being aligned, choosing in each moment to be who you remembered yourself to be, even when the world tries to pull you back into forgetting. It means showing up with your soul intact. It means choosing presence over performance. It means no longer molding yourself to fit into places your spirit has outgrown. And most of all, it means embodiment. You have spent lifetimes seeking the divine in temples, books, teachers, stars, but now the divine lives in your breath, in your hands, in your presence, in your choice to bring your remembered self into this moment, this interaction, this room. That is awakening. Not a concept, not a belief, a way of being. To live awake is to speak slowly in a world that rushes, to listen fully in a world that shouts, to love honestly in a world that hides. It is the quiet revolution, and it doesn't need permission, because your awareness has become a tuning beacon. Wherever you go, you carry your soul frequency, and even if others can't name it, they feel it. They feel something shift when you enter. They feel the peace you radiate. They feel the silence that holds space for truth. You become a mirror, a reminder, a quiet invitation for others to awaken, not through your words, but through your being. Integrity is the foundation now, not morality, not performance, but alignment. Integrity is when your thoughts, actions, and energy all sing the same tone. when who you are in private matches who you are in public, when your soul leads, not your conditioning. And this doesn't mean you'll never fall out of alignment. It means you'll notice when you do and you'll return, gently, without shame. You'll feel the dissonance, you'll feel the tightness, you'll feel the way your body recoils from performance. And instead of forcing yourself to keep pretending, you'll pause, you'll breathe, you'll remember, and you'll choose again. Living awake means anchoring your awareness into the present moment, again and again, no matter how loud the world becomes. You'll walk into rooms where people are trying to impress, dominate, prove, but you'll just be there, fully, quietly, powerfully, and that presence will do more than words ever could. You don't need to fix anyone. You don't need to wake anyone up. You only need to stay awake yourself. Your awareness becomes the tuning fork, and when others are ready, they'll resonate with you. Some will feel uncomfortable in your presence, not because of you, but because you remind them of the part of themselves they've forgotten. Let them. Others will feel seen in ways they can't explain. Let them too. You're not here to convince. You're here to embody. That's the legacy of awakening. Not teaching others what to believe, but being a living transmission of remembrance. And that's done in the small moments. How you speak to a stranger, how you respond when triggered, how you move through your day with presence instead of pressure. Each moment is a chance to either return to performance or to choose presence. Ask yourself, is this aligned with my soul's frequency? If the answer is no, breathe and come back, not with shame, with love. You're not here to be a saint, you're here to be real. Living awake also means embracing the paradox. You can feel everything and still be grounded. You can see the illusion and still love the people inside it. You can know your power and still move with humility. You don't have to retreat to a cave. You don't have to renounce the world. You are the bridge now, between silence and sound, between soul and skin, between timelessness and time. And every act you take in alignment, every word, every breath, every gaze becomes sacred. This is your temple now, this life, this body, this breath. And through it, you remember again and again, you are not here to escape the world, you are here to illuminate it from within. So light your flame, walk with grace, speak with clarity, listen with the ears of your soul. And when the world forgets, when it tries to pull you back into roles and noise and illusion, pause. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your breath in your chest. Feel your frequency humming quietly within you and say silently, I remember who I am. That single sentence is enough to shift the room, enough to shift reality. Because when you live in remembrance, the world must respond. Not all at once, not always kindly, but always inevitably. You are the tuning fork now. You are the silent revolution. You are the soul, living fully awake in a sleeping world. Why is this technique hidden? Why, if it brings peace, truth, and alignment, was it buried beneath centuries of noise? It's not because it causes harm. It's because it dissolves control. You see, systems built on obedience, religion, government, education, media, do not thrive when you are sovereign. They require you to need them, to seek authority outside of yourself, to doubt your inner compass and depend on theirs. But when you remember who you are, truly, deeply, unshakably, you become something they cannot categorize, manipulate, or own. Not rebellious, ungovernable. Because true sovereignty isn't loud, it's silent. It doesn't protest. It simply no longer participates in the illusion. It doesn't fight the system. It simply remembers it was never real, and that kind of freedom terrifies those who profit from your forgetting. This is why the forbidden technique is called forbidden, not because it's dangerous to you, but because it's dangerous to them, to the illusions, to the control structures, to the idea that truth lives somewhere other than inside your own soul. When you realign with your frequency, you stop needing permission, you stop begging for validation, you stop outsourcing your divinity to systems that sell it back to you in pieces. You become free not because the world changed, but because you did. And that inner freedom, that's the greatest threat of all. Because a soul that remembers no longer obeys out of fear. It listens from love. It chooses from clarity. It walks in peace not because it's passive, but because it no longer seeks power externally. This is why mystics have always been persecuted, not because they were dangerous, but because they were free. Look to Hypatia of Alexandria, a woman of knowledge and soul wisdom, teaching sacred geometry and soul alignment in a time ruled by dogma. She wasn't silenced because of science. She was silenced because her presence reminded others of their forgotten power. Or Giordano Bruno, burned alive not because of what he believed, but because he knew, because he said without fear that the soul is infinite, that the universe is a living expression of the divine and that we are not separate from it. And the Sufi poets, whispers of God written in metaphors so beautiful they threatened the very institutions meant to guard the sacred. They didn't speak about divinity, they embodied it. And that's what made them dangerous, not their words, their frequency, their remembrance. Because people who remember begin to awaken others, and awakening spreads like fire through dry grass, quietly, quickly, unstoppably. You don't need to shout from rooftops. Your presence is enough, your alignment is contagious, and that is what systems of control have always feared, that one soul, truly awake, could wake 10 more. And those 10 wake 100, until suddenly no one is buying the illusion anymore. So they banned the practice, they called it heresy, they painted it as dangerous. But what they feared wasn't destruction, it was liberation. Because the forbidden technique breaks the chains, not with violence, but with clarity, with stillness, with truth. They cannot tax your soul frequency, they cannot monetize your remembrance, they cannot sell you something you already are, and so it became hidden, not erased, but encoded, passed in whispers, carried in symbols, kept alive in poetry, in chant, in silence, always waiting for someone like you to find it again. You are not the first to remember, but you are part of the wave now, and you don't need to fight, you only need to become. Because as you embody your soul frequency, you are quietly removing yourself from the illusion. You stop being moved by manipulation. You stop seeking in systems that thrive on your emptiness. And you start living from fullness. That fullness terrifies them. Because a full soul cannot be baited. A full soul cannot be sold a false savior. A full soul does not tremble before empty threats. And so you become dangerous. Not to the world, but to the lie, to the structure built on your forgetting, to the echo chamber that depends on your silence. This practice is forbidden not because it causes chaos, but because it ends dependency. Because when you remember that you are already divine, you stop kneeling to things that were never sacred. You begin walking like a temple. You begin speaking like thunder wrapped in velvet. You begin carrying your truth with such ease that others feel their own truth waking up beside you. This is the real revolution, not outer war, inner remembrance. The moment you no longer ask, "Am I allowed?" but instead say, "I am." This is why you were drawn here. Not to learn something new, to remember something powerful, something forbidden, something eternal. And now that you've tasted it, you can never forget again. Because once the soul hears its name, it will spend the rest of its life echoing it, quietly, boldly, fearlessly. You've remembered something sacred. You've touched the eternal. But the true power of this remembrance is in how you carry it into the ordinary. This is where the transformation becomes real, not in the moments of spiritual ecstasy, but in the quiet minutes between tasks. The pauses in your day, the sacred in the mundane. Remembrance isn't just for meditation cushions and moonlit rituals. It belongs in your kitchen, your commute, your conversations. It belongs in life. Because that's the secret of true awakening. It doesn't remove you from the world. It immerses you into it. Fully, clearly, and consciously. And so, the practice becomes integration. Begin with your mornings. The first few minutes after waking are a doorway. Your mind hasn't yet wrapped itself around your identity. The ego is quiet. The soul is near the surface. So start your day not with a screen, but with breath. Before your feet touch the floor, place your hand on your heart. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly, and silently say, I remember. Not as an affirmation, as a vibration. Let the words resonate in your chest. Let them mean something. Then rise, slowly, with presence, with reverence, like returning to your body as a ritual, because it is. You can light a candle, burn incense, place your hands on the mirror and whisper to your reflection, not with vanity but with recognition. You're not the mask, you're the light behind it. These small acts set the tone. They invite your soul frequency into the day, not as a visitor but as the guide. Place symbols in your environment that reflect this truth, not to decorate, to anchor. A small mirror on your altar to remind you that everything you seek is already within. A lotus drawing on your wall, to remember you're blooming, even through the mud. A spiral etched into your journal cover, to remind you that your path isn't linear, it spirals inward. Nature itself becomes your temple, a leaf becomes scripture, a breeze becomes breath from the infinite. The sun on your skin becomes a transmission. You don't need grand gestures, you need reminders. Because remembrance is not one moment, it's a practice, a pulse, a returning. Create micro-practices throughout your day. Every hour pause, take one breath, and silently ask, am I remembering right now? Let that question recalibrate your being. Use the remember me breath. Inhale exhale. Member. Simple, gentle, resonant. It's not a chant to the universe. It's a calling inward, to the part of you that already knows. You can whisper your soul's name, not a literal name, but the vibration you felt in stillness. That tone, that resonance, let it echo in silence. Let it tune your body like a stringed instrument. And then move through your day carrying that tone. Not loudly, not performatively, subtly. A presence felt more than spoken. When you eat, taste fully. When you speak, mean it. When you walk, feel the earth. These are not small things. These are sacred rituals disguised as life. Every moment becomes an altar if you meet it with reverence. And every breath becomes a prayer if you fill it with presence. Make journaling a daily return, not to document, to remember. Ask yourself gently, when do I feel most like me? Write freely. Don't edit, don't analyze, just observe. You'll begin to notice patterns, people, places, situations where your soul contracts or expands. These are your maps, your guides, your reflections. The more you track what feels like you, the more you can choose it. And the more you choose it, the stronger your frequency becomes. Remembrance deepens with repetition. It's not about doing more, it's about being more often. So bring your soul into every interaction. When you listen, really listen. When you hug, let your energy flow. When you smile, let it reach your eyes, your heart, your field. Because people won't remember your words, they'll remember how your presence made them feel. And if you live from your soul frequency, your presence becomes healing. It becomes an offering. You don't need to explain this to anyone. You don't need to convince. You simply need to live it. And when you forget, and you will, that's okay. Forgetting is part of the rhythm. It's not failure. It's the space that allows remembrance to return with more depth, more truth. So forgive yourself quickly. Return softly. And remember again. You are not here to escape life. You are here to infuse it with the sacred, to walk through grocery stores like temples, to sip your tea like communion, to hold your partner's hand like holding infinity. This is how the practice lives, not in perfection, in presence, not in performance, in peace. So let every moment be your reminder. Let every breath be your return. Let every day become a ritual of remembrance. Because you are no longer seeking your soul, you are living from it, and that changes everything. You've come so far, but you hadn't gone anywhere, because this journey was never about distance. It was always about depth. Not a path outside of you, but a spiral inward, winding gently, patiently, back to where you began. You were never lost. You were only remembering. And now, in this moment, as you sit in the afterglow of these words, feel what's shifted inside you, not because something new was added, but because something ancient has returned. You were not learning. You were remembering, not collecting knowledge, but uncovering memory, not filling yourself, but emptying the noise, the roles, the layers, until what was left was truth. You are not a seeker. You are the source rediscovering itself. The one who asked the question is the same one who holds the answer. The one who wandered was only doing so to feel the joy of returning. You are not the student. You are the spark. You are not looking for the light. You are the light, remembering its own radiance. So now, gently, without effort, close your eyes. Take a breath, not for oxygen, but for presence. Let your body soften, let your mind rest, and ask yourself, what have I always known? Deep down, before the world spoke, before the stories were written, before the fear took shape, what truth was already humming in the silence of my being? Listen closely. Perhaps it's not a sentence. Perhaps it's just a feeling, a color, a frequency, a memory that cannot be named but still feels like home. That's it. That's you, the you that was never born and will never die. The vibration behind the voice, the presence beneath the performance, the eternal beneath the temporary. This remembrance is your freedom. It doesn't come with a certificate. It doesn't need to be proven. It just is. And now you know, you are not the storm. You are the stillness holding the storm. You are not the name. They gave you that. You are not the role. You've played many. You are the field of awareness behind it all. The memory awakening, the light returning, the silence remembering its sound. You are the vibration. You are the answer. And no system, no doctrine, no voice of fear can take that from you now. You carry your soul name in every cell. You radiate your true frequency in every breath. You don't have to speak it, you just have to be it. And as you move from this space into your life, into your relationships, into your world, know this. You've crossed a threshold. Not one you can see, one you can feel. This is not the end of your journey. It's the moment your soul takes the lead. And when it leads, you don't need to rush. You don't need to prove. You don't need to search. You walk with knowing. You walk with peace. You walk with the quiet power of someone who has returned. So, wherever you go next, go as you. Not the mask, not the echo. You, fully, clearly, radiantly. Because this world is not in need of more information, it's starving for remembrance, for presence, for souls like yours, alive, awake, aligned. You don't need to change anyone, you don't need to wake them, just live as proof that awakening is possible. Just embody the frequency of truth and the rest will follow. And when you forget, and you will, remember, the soul doesn't keep score. It only calls you home, again and again, with every breath, with every moment, with every quiet whisper that says, "You are not broken. You have simply forgotten. Now, come home." And here you are, home, not in a place, but in a presence. Welcome back.